Hello folks, and welcome to a brand new game, one of my most anticipated games of the year, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. As always, of course, I am Falcon, your host. Now, this video may or may not have some issues we will see as we go forward. I am using a new version of OBS that was actually a new version of the program entirely. It's not just an update to the one I was using, it's a completely different, reworked from the ground up version of OBS. I was using the OBS Classic. I am now using the OBS Studio. The reason for this is the Classic version, when they updated it, I could no longer use the NVIDIA codec that it used to be able to use, that I had started using because the normal version, the normal codec, was giving me issues with the game that I was recording stuttering. Not for me playing it, but in the video. And when I switched over to the NVIDIA codec, that seemed to have solved that problem. However, the update for OBS broke that. It didn't actually break the video itself, it seemed to be fine, but it broke my editing software being able to work with it, so I had to go back to the other one. And while that seemed to be working okay, with some things, when I tried to record this earlier, just experimenting with settings and stuff, it was giving me that old hitching problem that I was having with the non-NVIDIA codec problem. And again, it wasn't me, I didn't see it playing the game, it was caused in the video itself, and there didn't appear to be much I could really do to solve it. So, in my attempts to go back to the old version, I was looking up the OBS and whatnot, and actually discovered that there was a completely new version of OBS that's wildly different than the other ones. That was wildly different than the new one, and I've spent the entire day trying to fiddle with it and get it working when I wasn't out hanging out with some friends and stuff. Thus the reason why this video is basically not coming out the day that I had intended for it to come out. It'll be coming out, I guess, the following day. So we'll have 2 videos in a row, essentially, of it. Of Deus Ex. Not really how I intended to have it play out, but oh well, it's just gonna be how it goes. So we're gonna see this video. I am still not using the NVIDIA codec because it still seems to give me a limited degree of problems. I may experiment around with it depending on how many problems we encounter in this particular video. I may do some more experimenting and see if I can get the NVIDIA codec to work. It would load in the editing software with the new version, the other version of OBS that I'm using now, but it was doing weird things, so I need to fiddle with it and see, basically see if it's possible for me to figure out how to get it working a little more effectively. But we'll see. We may not even have to fiddle with that. We'll have to investigate, because I have no idea how well or how poorly this version of OBS will work. We'll see. I'm not using a webcam in this because, at least for this first episode, because I'm not entirely sure where all the UI components show up in this, and I don't want to block any of the UI. And this is also not really so much a game that really I feel will benefit from the webcam, face cam thing. So, let's jump in really briefly into the options settings so I can show off what we've got going on. So we got full screen, of course, and windowed. And then we have essentially, near as I can tell, it is, if you disable this, you go into borderless windowed mode. As far as I can tell, but it has issues. So we're running with exclusive full screen, which does seem to make the game run slightly better. It does make it a little harder for me to deal with my editing software, but that's not really that serious of a concern. I am playing the game at 2560 by 1440. The video, of course, is not at that resolution. It is at 1080. I can lower this to 1080, and I do get a bump in frame rate. We might do that. It depends on how bad my frame rate really ends up seeming to be when we're actually playing. You do want to basically turn this off because it tanks the game really hard. So turning this off helps a great deal. My refresh rate, of course, is set to my monitor's maximum, even though we're not actually hitting those frame rates in the game. I can hit them pretty close if I fiddle around with some stuff without recording, but as soon as I start recording, as usual, it drops a great deal. VSync, of course, which doesn't really do much for me because of the fact that I have a G-Sync monitor, but, well, we won't go there. Field of view actually needs to be increased. 90 is where I usually like things, even though I sometimes play at 100, but 90 is actually usually where I want it. Brightness, of course, is a nice addition. Stereoscopic stuff. I like that it actually has stereoscopic 3D. Which is great. I like that's actually a thing. I like that you put that in. Then we have the actual graphics settings. I have fiddled around with this a great deal. There's a lot of shit here. I'm not even going to go over all of it because there's a lot of stuff. I will, though, kind of slowly scroll through it so you all can see what my settings are and what I'm playing the game on. I could lower this a little bit. I may end up lowering some of it a little bit. Just because... And by the way, these slider bars annoy me. I wish it was just on or off, like these are. But if it's to the right in green, then it's on. If it's to the left in white, then it's off. Motion blur, because fuck motion blur. Basically. Yeah. Audio, this is how I have the audio settings set. With the new version of OBS, I'm going to have to probably fiddle around with audio stuff again, but I'm doing my best as far as that goes. You have voice and text options for different languages, which is great. Mouse and keyboard rebinding if you so choose, which is good. Mouse sensitivity, also good. Gamepad, of course, whatever, who the hell cares? Yeah. If one chooses to play with a gamepad. You're sick and you're bad. You're just bad. But, you know, whatever. UI settings, you can turn off all the different versions of parts of the UI, which is great. I prefer to actually have the UI stuff, particularly in this game, because it actually makes sense, unlike in a lot of games, but, you know, we won't go there. Alright, so I had a game loaded because I was playing around with stuff, but we're going to skip that. This first video, you know what, if you haven't seen the game, I think I'm going to let you watch the intro video. Primarily because I haven't seen it, the intro video, and it gives you a detailed information. It's like a long-ass video. So you may want to just completely skip this first episode, because this first episode is going to be the settings and this intro video and me talking about my OBS issues and blah blah blah. Yeah. Just saying. So, we will hit new game. I am going to play on the Give Me Deus Ex, which is hard. There's, of course, basically easy, normal, hard, and then never ask for this, which is hard, but you get only one life. So if you die, you're fucked. You're game over. You're the end. Which is actually kind of cool. You know, it's a hardcore mode. But, yeah. Sure. Yeah, we're gonna go with this one. Yeah, I want to start a new game. And yes, we are gonna watch this, because I want you guys to be able to see it. And again, this first episode, I may actually... once the whole intro shit is over, I may actually end this quote-unquote episode, and then we will pick up with the actual, like, the beginning of the game in the next episode, which will be the first episode of the real playthrough. So, yeah, we will watch this. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
The year was 2027. Advances in biotechnology were helping people improve their physical and mental abilities to an amazing degree. Provided, of course, they had enough money. A new breed of people was emerging, half human, half machine. And in Detroit, at least, not everyone was happy to see it. I'd just landed a job as head of security at Sarif Industries, a cutting-edge biotech firm. David Sarif himself handpicked me for the job. Said he needed me to keep his people safe. My ex, Megan Reed, was one of them. Brilliant neuroscientist, Megan had found a way to make augmentation safe and affordable for everyone. All she had to do was present her research to Congress. But the night before her big meeting, my security measures failed. A team of Black Op mercenaries stormed into Sarif headquarters, massacring everyone in sight. 3 of the mercs were heavily augmented walking tanks. Their mission? Take out Megan and her team. I tried to stop them, but their leader tossed me through a plate glass wall. Last thing I heard as his bullets slammed into my brain was Megan's dying scream. I should have died with her. Only I didn't. High-end military-grade enhancements saved my life. The best augmentation Sarif's money could buy. Took me half a year to get a feel for her. Should have taken longer. But 6 months into my recovery, Sarif Industries was attacked again. This time, by a radical group of pro-human purists.
By the way, this whole video is in 30 frames per second. It is
Violent,
locked and bad.
militant, and fanatically opposed to human augmentation. They claimed to be members of Humanity Front, a non-profit organization that wanted the UN to limit biotechnology research. The thugs broke into Sarif's factory and found machinists working overtime on a top-secret military augment called the Typhoon. Sarif sent me to retrieve it, and when I did, I found one of the so-called purists next to it, wired with cerebral implants, trying to download its classified specs. Obviously, something more was going on. The Aug killed himself before I could question him. Sarif ordered me to dig deeper. So with the help
Tasty.
of Frank Pritchard, Sarif's head of cybersecurity, I did. Turns out a second hacker had been controlling the Aug's actions from somewhere off-site. Pritchard and I tracked his signal to a secret FEMA internment camp in Detroit. The Black Op mercenaries were there. The same mercs who'd left me for dead 6 months before. Figured they'd try again when they saw me. It wasn't so easy for them this time. I took out the tank named Barrett, even got him to give me a new lead. A penthouse apartment in China. Of course, we both knew it would be a trap in the end. Hengsha Island, China. Home to a city so crowded, they had to build a second city on top of it. Trying to find clues in Hengsha wouldn't be easy. Lucky for me, I wasn't alone. Farida Malik, Sarif Industries' ace pilot, had lived in Hengsha before. A good person to have on your side. She knew enough about the place to get me around. Malik dropped me in the lower city, close to the penthouse Barrett had told me about. Bell Tower Associates, a private security firm under contract to the Chinese government, had agents tossing the suite when I arrived. Just not for the reason I'd been expecting.
I remember
Turns out
that
the man
area.
who lived there was a criminal hacker named Van Bruggen. The same hacker who'd been remotely controlling the Aug in Sarif's factory. Van Bruggen's panicked decision to force the man to commit suicide had been a mistake. Now his mercenary partners were gunning for him, and I needed to find him before they did. Locating Van Bruggen meant playing nice with the Triads, Hengsha's organized crime lords. They had the hacker holed up inside a low-rent capsule hotel. By the time I found him, Van Bruggen had no qualms giving up the woman who hired him. Zhao Yunru, president of the Taiyang Medical Corporation. According to Van Bruggen, Zhao wanted to monopolize the augmentation industry and had hired Black Op mercenaries to destabilize her competition. Sarif Industries was at the top of her list. To prove this, I needed to get inside TYM and grab a surveillance hologram off a server. I suspected Van Bruggen was hiding something when he told me this, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Megan wasn't dead. She and her 4 best researchers had been kidnapped, spirited away somewhere while their kidnappers made it look like they were dead. Desperate to learn more, I confronted Zhao in her penthouse. She claimed to be a pawn in a bigger plan, and hinted at a group so powerful It controlled global interests at a whim. Then she slipped into a panic room and hit the alarm, forcing me to make a very quick exit.
I actually don't remember that part.
I figured Zhao was lying, but part of her confession made sense. David Sarif had been worried about his people. So worried, he'd required all of them to have subdermal locator devices surgically implanted. The GPLs would have been broadcasting the day of the attack. But Zhao said a single call to Picus, the world's leader in global 24-hour satellite news, and turn those signals off. I needed to fly to Picus headquarters in Montreal if I wanted to learn more. Eliza Cassan, Picus Communications' First Lady of News. Malik thought I was reaching when I told her Eliza was involved in this. The world's most famous news anchor, working with a mercenary hit squad. But when I confronted Cassan in her office, she freely admitted to jamming Detroit's satellites the night Megan's team had been taken. Said she's just been following her commands. I suspected she wanted to say more. But Black Op mercenaries showed up looking to shut us both down. And just like that, the Eliza I'd been talking to disappeared. The Mercs were led by an augmented killer I'd crossed paths with twice before. Fedorova, a woman who'd made silence her best friend. She waited for me to track Eliza's transmission to a secret server room underneath the Picus complex, then jumped me from behind. A deadly fight ensued. I made sure she never moved silently again. With Fedorova down and no one left to keep Eliza quiet, she reappeared. Turns out Picus's First Lady of News wasn't a lady at all. She was a sophisticated AI program, engineered to monitor data streams and control what people believed. Eliza told me the Mercs had brought in a Humanity Front doctor named Isaiah Sandoval to remove the scientist's implanted tracking devices while Detroit's satellites were down. She also told me to speak to David Sarif if I wanted to learn more. By the time Malik and I got back to Detroit, tensions between normal and augmented citizens had reached a flashpoint. Riots were breaking out in several cities, and the UN was being urged to intervene. Sarif was trying hard to convince Hugh Darrow, the inventor turned philanthropist who'd once been a leading proponent of enhancement technologies, to help stop a possible regulatory vote. Sarif had a lot riding on Darrow. Megan's discovery would have given millions of people the chance to evolve beyond their normal human abilities, and at the same time catapulted Sarif Industries to the top of the Fortune 500. According to Sarif, Megan's kidnappers knew this, and didn't want people evolving unless they controlled how it was done. He called his enemies Illuminati, and urged me to keep searching. Determined to do so, I tracked down Sandoval via America's most outspoken augmentation opponent, Bill Taggart, Sandoval's boss and founder of Humanity Front. Sandoval admitted to operating on Megan's team when I confronted him, but said he hadn't removed their GPLs. He'd merely switched them to a different frequency. Pritchard was able to trace one of the signals to China. Malik and I immediately took off in pursuit. Unfortunately, the Illuminati were one step ahead. Ambushed. Shot out of the sky by Bell Tower Associates, seconds after entering Hengsha's airspace. Malik's piloting skills saved me. After a tense and bitter struggle, I escaped into Lower Hengsha. The tracking signal I was following led straight to the Triads, or more specifically, to the augmented arm of Tong Si-hung, leader of a gang of augmentation harvesters. Tong said they'd taken the arm off a corpse, which Bell Tower had left at their door, meaning at least one of Sarif's scientists was dead. Maybe not the rest of them, though. Tong pointed me to a port used for human trafficking and helped me slip aboard a Bell Tower ship. It was sailing to Rifleman Bank Station, a military base in the South China Sea. Bell Tower was holding kidnapped civilians as prisoners there, and using them to perfect the Hyron project, a human-computer interface that left most of its test subjects dead.
Oh, good.
My search for Megan would have ended then, if if not for a mysterious ally named Quinn. In exchange for my help exposing Bell Tower, he slipped me aboard a second ship headed to Singapore and an Illuminati-run biotech facility called Omega Ranch. 3 of Sarif's scientists were there, forced by their captors to create a technology capable of remotely shutting down augmented abilities. Thanks to an emergency recall notice issued by the World Health Organization, millions of people all over the world already had the biochip installed. With the help of the scientists, I tracked Megan to a private section of the ranch. There, I ran into Yaron Namir, the walking tank who'd put a bullet in my brain the first time we met. He'd teamed up with Zhao and was hoping to catch me off guard. But the little ambush didn't work. I found Megan in a suite belonging to Hugh Darrow, the billionaire philanthropist who'd Sarif had called on for help. Darrow had convinced her to go along with the biochip plan by promising to sabotage the tech. As she was explaining this, Darrow appeared in a global broadcast, telling the world that augmentations would be the death of mankind. Then he activated the biochips to prove his point. All over the world, augmented people flew into a killing frenzy. Darrow had betrayed everyone, and it was up to me to set things right. To do it, I had to reach Panchaea, a massive installation in the Arctic Ocean. As I raced through corridors built by an all-augmented workforce, I saw death and destruction firsthand. By the time I shut down Darrow's broadcast, I knew the damage he'd done. Still, humanity's future remained unclear. How would the world react to this sabotage? Would people ever regain their faith in augmentations again? What would be the Illuminati's next move? Only time could give us the answers.
And that, folks, was the beginning of the first, or actually basically the whole story of the first game. Now this is the beginning of the actual game.
I once thought I could save the world. Now look at it.
In yet another augmented terror attack, 251 passengers aboard Sister Airlines Flight 451 were killed when an augmented passenger broke into the plane's cockpit and ruthlessly butchered its flight crew. Details recovered from the black box recorder suggest that the man may have been suffering flashbacks to the August incident.
So Eliza's still
that horrible day 2 years ago when augmented people all over the world flew into a psychotic killing spree, causing the greatest loss of life in recent history.
Interesting. Eliza being that AI that was the newscaster that you've been talking about.
You just have to let go and embrace what you've become.
Not gonna go all wonky on us now, Hansa, are you?
Well, if I do, McCready, I guarantee you'll never see it coming.
Agent Jensen, am I gonna have a problem with you?
Nah.
No, sir. No reason to assume you would.
Good, because you are the only augmented operative on this team, and I intend to make good use of you.
I do think I need to turn the game's sound
Listen up, all of you.
music down a little bit.
We've got a sandstorm barreling down our ass and we can't afford to make mistakes. We're going after this man, an arms dealer named Shepard. He's ex-Bell Tower, one of the Special Forces commanders who disappeared during the incident.
And he's come out of hiding. That cannot be good.
It's not. He's selling weapons and military-grade augments to terrorists. This is Aran Singh, the undercover agent who lured Shepard out of his hole. Best you see Interpol's got. But 3 years he's worked hard to get in tight with the Jinn, an Iraqi smuggling cartel that's infected the Eastern Hemisphere like a plague. Last week, our arms dealer sent a message to the Jinn, offering to sell them a shitload of black market merchandise dirt cheap. They told Singh to handle the buy.
They're not gonna like it when Interpol disrupts their party. Singh's cover really that good?
It is right now. We need to keep it that way. This is where the deal's going down. A half-finished high-rise hotel that's been abandoned ever since the incident. It's not a pretty picture
it doesn't look
inside.
half
Let me
finished.
guess.
It's bombed out.
Most of the
essentially.
labourers were augmented with heavy-duty industrial rigs. So when the incident hit and they all went schizo, things got gruesome real fast.
And no one, except for some homeless junkies, have been inside the place ever since.
So what's the plan, Director?
Singh's meeting Shepard on the ground floor, inside the hotel's main atrium. He sent the bulk of his gin crew to the penthouse levels to secure a vantage point. I want McCready's team to take up positions overlooking the atrium and make the arrest. Jensen, you're going in solo from the roof.
My objectives?
Keep the gin from joining the party. As far as we can tell, only one route connects the atrium to the penthouse level, a halfway decent elevator shaft. Here. I want you to block access to it.
Fine. Just cut me loose.
Do you plan on relying solely on your augments for this one? I'd recommend taking a little hardware, just to be sure.
Aye, we probably should. Alright, so that's going to be it for this recording episode. I may cut out some of the briefing and put it in the beginning of the next episode. I may not, we'll see. Either way, we're going to roll with what we got right now. So, thank you for watching, folks. And look forward to the main series. Take it easy, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.